When it comes to making the best hamburgers around, the basics matter, and Wendy's, well, they've really got those burger basics on lock, and boy, does it show. So what is the secret to all those hot and juicy hamburgers? Simple. Wendy's always crafts their hamburgers from fresh, never frozen beef they're famous for. The result? Hot and juicy, beefy hamburger perfection every single time. No matter which hamburger you order from the Wendy's menu, you already know, thanks to those Wendy's burger basics, it's going to be exactly what you're craving. So it could be single, it could be baconator, perfect every time. Fresh beef available in the contiguous US, Alaska, and Canada, not available in Hawaii. Go fresh with Wendy's. Welcome to Andy and RRF, presented by Wendy's, and we've got a fresh show for you today. Yeah, we watched the Super Bowl last night. The David Beckham, Matt Damon commercial was spectacular. Seal as a seal was great. The game, not so exciting, but pretty much the greatest Georgia recruiting video ever, Ari.
Yeah. I have pizza hangover right now, so be with me today. I ate a lot of pizza yesterday, and that was pretty much the highlight of the game. But yeah, so I want to talk about this because I think it's interesting. I'm happy going right into it. It's like everybody knows the 2021 Georgia defense was awesome, and they won the national title. Like, is there another notch on Kirby's belt? Is there do you elevate Georgia football at all as a result of what we saw? Because listen, I had the most engaged tweet I've ever had. I don't know if you saw that, but I said that Patrick Mahomes was playing like Tommy Tuberville coached him, which was kind of a joke because Tommy Tuberville and Donald Trump falsely claimed him last week in a very hilarious way. But like, I also feel like
I will point out, Tommy Tuberville has never falsely claimed he coached Patrick Mahomes. He has falsely claimed he recruited Patrick Mahomes when that was actually the Cliff Kingsbury staff.
Both were hilarious either way. And it's like, it wasn't his fault. Like, Georgia, I think I was sitting next to Chris Vanini on my couch. We had a Super Bowl party. A bunch of people were over, and he told me the stat, and if it's wrong, it's his fault. But he said that in the first half that Philadelphia pressured Mahomes on 43% of the snaps and never blitzed.
They didn't blitz the entire game, Ari. They didn't blitz once.
I know there was not a single blitz, and they pressure Mahomes 43% of the. Is that a record?
No, well, it's exactly what the Bucs did to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a few years ago, because the Chiefs had some bad offensive line injuries, actually worse than this year. Because this year they had Joe Thuney playing left tackle. He's a guard, but that's what the Bucs did with Vita Vea and that crew, and they sent 4, and the Chiefs couldn't block their 4 with their 5, and that's exactly what happened with the Eagles. Now, when you're sending Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, and this is a great Georgia recruiting video, because obviously the Eagles did grab all those Georgia defenders in the draft. This is also a great build through the draft, build through recruiting, high school recruiting video, because that's what the Eagles did. The high profile additions like Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown came through free agency, but Howie Roseman, their GM, did most of this with homegrown talent. Like, that offensive line, 4 of the 5 starters are homegrown. They brought in Mekhi Becton because Jason Kelsey retired and they had to move Cam Jorgens over to center. But most of that defensive line is homegrown. Like, it is a real advertisement for, hey, trust in your own evaluations. And, we joked when Howie Roseman kept taking all these Georgia players, but wouldn't you want as much of that defense, that 2021 or 2022 Georgia defense, as humanly possible?
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like we're in the thick of NFL draft prep, right? And there's so much that goes into it. Someone's footwork at the Senior Bowl, and how did they interview? What was their Wonderlic score? Were they the captain of their team? Like, all these things. And it's like, sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm an NFL GM. I watched 2021 Georgia defense. Let's just draft those guys.
Let's just do
I don't
that.
know if it's like simple as that, but it felt like it. And like, listen, we've known for years, everybody on the show's known for years that Jalen Carter was a generational defensive lineman, right? And if you put him on the field, he's going to wreck the offensive game plan by himself. But like Nolan Smith has been awesome in his time in Philadelphia. I mean, Jordan Davis,
Kobe Dean.
Great. Kobe Dean's been very good. Keely Ringo, is early in his. I mean, they've had 6 dudes from that defense on their team.
Yeah, it is crazy, and it seems overly simplistic, but it's not. Like, because you don't see this that often. Where an NFL team just kind of wholesale takes a giant chunk of a college team, but it actually makes more sense, right? Like they understand how to play together. You can incorporate, like, your defensive coaches can take pieces of what they did in college. Now, it doesn't all translate to the NFL, but they can take the pieces they like that do translate to the NFL, and they're going to instantly know what they're doing. Like,
yeah. So here's what I want to get to, because I want to write about this when we're done here. Does this change your perspective, or was it already just like they were awesome? Like does Kirby Smart get to walk with?
Were there people that didn't think the 21 and 22 Georgia defenses were awesome? Are they blind?
No. I'm saying, does it add anything to you, or was it already perfect?
Yes, it's a great recruiting pitch, and Brendan in the chat says Kirk Ferentz now has his new forever recruiting pitch thanks to Cooper DeJean. Yeah, that helps too, absolutely. But for Kirby, it's a little bit different because, again, we haven't seen it where there's this many guys from one side. And Wealthy Future says, stop the Georgia glaze. Alabama also has 6 players on the Eagles roster. Yes, but they all play different sides of the ball. Like, they very consciously selected players from this particular era of Georgia defense. Like, it was clearly a plan. And by the way, Howie Roseman, Florida grad. So you can tell he's not worrying about the old alma mater here. He's like, no. We're going to help Georgia recruit because we need to win here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, too, it's a testament to just the individual talents that were on that D. Like, I mean, it's like part of it's like, Georgia's amazing. It's like also, like, Keely Ringo was like a top 5 overall player nationally, wasn't he? Like, I mean, these were all guys.
Well, which one was Keely and his mom and the snake in the recruiting pit, the recruiting photo shoot, like the giant python? Come on.
They had really, really good players who have, like, Jordan Davis is a physical freak, right? Jalen Carter is a physical freak. But man, I just don't, I thought that was like an ass whooping in a way that I didn't anticipate, and mainly because Patrick Mahomes couldn't breathe. Like, he didn't have a second.
I don't know why we didn't anticipate it. The other Super Bowl they lost exactly like this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like, to me, I've been fading the Chiefs the entire way in the playoffs. And I felt stupid because Patrick Mahomes is, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't know if that means that he's more accomplished than Brady. Obviously, he's not.
I think we'll find out as time goes on. But I don't think that's an outrageous statement.
But as we were, let's put it this way. I am in awe when watching him in a way that I was never in awe watching any other quarterback. That doesn't take, it's the same thing with like Jordan and LeBron, right? Like, it's a preference thing.
Yeah, you're allowed to think they're both good. They're both really, really good. But we're allowed to think they're both good. Yeah.
But like, and I was like very discouraged because, as you know, Andy, as I was driving to meet you in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, I hammered the Bills. Okay. And when I say hammered, I mean like hammered with the big hammer from Home Depot. And like, we were laughing about it. And the next morning I was dying inside. And all my friends who were with me on the Bills flipped to the Chiefs for the Super Bowl because they're like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not betting against Mahomes. I'm not ever doing it again. The NFL refs are in the back. It's like all the same stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going down with the ship. Because I actually believe that Philadelphia's team is better, as I thought the Bills team was better. And I increased the amount from the Bills game and got it back. So this is a good day for me. Another thing I wanted to bring up, Andy, I don't think that we appropriately appreciated Xavier Worthy when he was in college.
Is that because Texas didn't need to use him as much? Like he was,
I don't know. Yeah,
he was pretty good. Like the first play Xavier Worthy played in a Texas Oklahoma game was like
he scored.
70-yard,
like an 80-yard touchdown pass. Yeah, I remember. I think he's going to be a great receiver in the league for 11 years. And I just wanted to give him props because I think he's awesome. And,
well, okay,
he had some injuries, right, in college. And, the team had a bunch of other options and stuff. He played with A.D. Mitchell. Like, I get it. But I just think he's awesome. And I wanted to say it. So,
well, and also I will throw a bone to Wealthy Future, who wants us to glaze the Alabama players as well. Like Devontae Smith's been great. Landon Dickerson is one of the most important players on the Eagles team. Like Landon Dickerson is awesome. That whole offensive line is awesome. But
yeah. And here's the thing: the Georgia discussion doesn't mean Alabama sucks.
Bad interneting, Ari. Don't you know that anytime you say nice about one thing nice about one person, it means you think everyone else sucks?
You want good interneting? Here's one. Jalen Hurts is a Sooner. Is that good?
I love it. I love it.
Go to Bama.
I was really happy for Jalen Hurts. Really happy because
you want to have that talk?
He was spectacular. Yeah. Absolutely spectacular in that game. And look,
I'm gonna throw you under the bus here, Andy.
Go for it.
And let's relive that discussion that we had in the Xfinity Green Room when we were in New Orleans last week, and we were going over the tractor or the trailer and truck
and the trucks
in the league.
Yeah,
and we were rattling them off. Mahomes, truck, Josh Allen, truck.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is an undeniable truck?
Lamar.
In the NFL. Lamar Jackson, truck. And then we got to Jalen Hurts, and Andy went,
because he has the best offensive line in football.
Did
that also helps. It might have changed last night. Like he was awesome. He was so in control and in command. Now, part of it is having the best offensive line in football, but also part of it is just knowing how to react when you are pressured and knowing how to get out of it. He was like the growth you've seen from him since because we started watching him as a true freshman at Alabama, a true freshman. And there had to be a lot of growth to get to that point, to even become an NFL starting quarterback, because the Jalen Hurts that we saw get benched at halftime of the national championship game his sophomore year at Alabama was never going to be a starting NFL quarterback. He worked his way into that.
It's one of the most amazing transformations of an individual talent I've ever seen.
Oh, and before we move, while we're talking about Hurts, he also helped cut a promo for Kirby and company.
Yeah,
that Georgia defense.
Let's play that.
Play the video.
Ago, what have you seen in terms of that connection, and why is that so important?
Well, I say to that, I think a big part of it has to do with the Georgia background on defense. And I think that starts with Kobe Dean and all those guys that were able to play ball in college together and bring their ways to the league. And so I think that has a big impact on our culture, on defense, how they play, how together they are. And then I think that kind of seeps through the team in many ways.
Kalen DeBoer and Brent Venables are like, please, why did you do that?
Thank you for the lead to my story. That was before the game, right?
Yeah, that was pre-game. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Lead. Yeah. I mean, they won the national title that year, and it's like, what do you sell first in the next living room you're in?
Yeah, I think I wish Jalen Hurts though had gone a little step further and like, hey, remember my last game one of my last games at Alabama when I saved Alabama against Georgia when Tua got hurt, when I came in the SEC championship game and just tortured Georgia's defense.
A lot of tentacles on this. Here's the thing. That everybody fails to talk about when we talk about Jalen Hurts being benched. is who he was when that happened. Like, when you think about the position that he was in and how embarrassing that must have been and how hurtful that probably is to play quarterback for your team all year, get them all the way there, and then not get to finish that game. Do you remember his body language on the sideline? Like, do you remember every single time they panned to him? He was
I remember
he had a
interviewing
coach's
him
sheet.
after the game.
Yeah, so tell
and
me
thinking-
about it. Like what do you remember about that?
He was so classy and so gracious, and he had to be dying inside.
Oh, sure.
Like he had to be dying inside. He never let it show. And he was incredibly gracious about everything. Took every question. It was just like, if you could say, this is how I'd love for my kid to be able to act in a tough situation, or myself to be able to act in a tough situation. Like, it was perfect. And like, what he is as a person at that point. Like, forget the football part of it. You know what he is as a person at that point.
The thing too is it's like the interview was important, right? But like, it was how he stayed engaged in the game. Like, I remember vividly, like, when they would pan to him on the sideline after he was benched, he was the first one to greet Tua, on the sidelines. He had a coach's sheet. He was like engaged in the game. Like, he wanted them to win. Like, I don't know here about me, but like, if I were the quarterback that got benched, like, I would probably be like rooting against it in my head. Like, I was like, I don't want them to win without me. Right. Like, I feel like it's so easy to put yourself first, and maybe it's going to be self first more and more and more in college football now with the way that it's set up. But like, in terms of feeling happy for a person, like, I don't know how you could hate Jalen Hurts.
I don't think there's a lot of people
are there Jalen
who do.
Hurts haters out there? Like, it's like he is
probably fans of other NFC East teams. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and if they hate him because he's good, that's different than hating him like personally. Because Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback on the face of the earth, and there's a lot of people that just dislike his presence. Or dislike.
I think that's because he wins too much. I think Patrick Mahomes was universally liked until he started winning too much. If Jalen Hurts wins 2 of the next 4 Super Bowls, then people will hate him for winning too much too. That's just sort of how.
Yeah. Well, I also think too, like, people don't like his wife and his brother, and they don't like the
Mahomes.
That he interacts with the officials at times, but I think that the root of it is all winning too much. And I wanted to have a discussion about that too, because we were again in the green room at the in New Orleans.
We should have just turned the cameras on.
Yeah, no, I know, but like, I was talking, there were a few Eagles fans in there, and there were a few other people in there. And we were talking about the game, and everyone that wasn't an Eagles fan was like, "Yeah, I just want the Eagles to win. I'm sick of the Chiefs."
That was me. That's what I said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm going to talk to you about it. And it's like, the thing I don't understand about sports in general is that we love winners, right? We love winning, and winning cures all.
We love underdogs too, though.
But in the
especially when we have no rooting interest.
But like, when you look back at like the most, I mean, I'll even like go from a collecting standpoint, like, because Panini are people. But if you like go look at like card values, the highest card values that you could possibly for players that you could find, outside of like vintage Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle stuff, is Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and now Patrick Mahomes. And I think the reason why is because people want to collect and want to feel connected to greatness. But as greatness is happening, like, people aren't enjoying it. Like, it's like, I don't think I would have hated, outside of my personal financial interests, the idea of Mahomes winning 3 in a row, because part of watching sports and being engaged in sports, Andy, is about witnessing and enjoying greatness as it unfolds. So like, this like thought process of like, well, everybody wants a winner, but if you win too much, you're annoying, is so bizarre to me, because what's the point of watching sports?
People want something new, Ari. People don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. Sure. That is human nature. You get tired of the same thing.
But I
So
also
if
feel
you're
like
not
there
a
should be
Chiefs
more
fan-
appreciation for living in the thing that sucks for me is I was a kid when Michael Jordan was playing.
Mhm.
Like I was in between 5 and 12, like during the peak of his run. And I was too young in my life to like really appreciate, like obviously when I was a kid, everyone knew Michael Jordan was the best, but like I wasn't watching Michael Jordan.
This is the one that's different, Ari. This is the one that's different because of the baseball thing, because of the gap. Whatever conspiracy theory you want to believe for why Michael retired and was out for 2 years, like it's different because of the gap. Like,
But
now-
Michael Jordan is probably the greatest individual athlete of our time, right?
yes,
Of maybe ever. Like you could make the case he's the greatest athlete of all time. And I didn't get a chance because of my age to, like, I've gone back and watched videos. I watched The Last Dance. Like everyone knows Jordan was great. I wear his shoes. But like I wish I would have been able to live in the great moments because that's like I feel like the epitome of sports.
Oh,
and
listen,
like
now, but I'll tell you, it was much bigger groundswell of support for the Bulls for the first title or two, and after that, it was like, okay, they win everything. But
so,
I'll
like,
tell you right now,
the second
they
three-peat, were
lose.
people like rooting against them?
Oh yeah. That first finals though that they won, I think it was 91. So they're playing the Lakers. They lose game 1 to the Lakers. They shouldn't have lost game 1. Game 2 is the one. This is my favorite basketball play of all time. It's the one where he comes in, has the ball in his right hand,
Yeah, moves it and then
pumps, switches to his left and drops it in. And Marv Albert goes, "Oh, spectacular move by Michael Jordan." And I remember jumping out of my chair. And I'm a Magic fan. We just moved to Orlando. The Magic had just started. But at that point, the Bulls had not been able to get over the hump. Michael Jordan was kind of this, the lovable, great player who could not get over the hump. And so everybody's behind him. By the time he got to championship number 3, it was like, okay, this is good. But then he takes the 2 years off so that at least the first championship of the second three-peat, everybody's back behind him because they want to see if he can do it again. And
the thing that's interesting though is like if everybody was rooting against Jordan in the middle of his like run, and they would have gotten what they wanted, and the Bulls would have lost, like how different would American culture be? Like how different would I don't know if even if we won 2 or 3 in a row, maybe it wouldn't have changed at all.
I don't think it would have changed anything.
There
There
are
also
people take for granted our heroes.
There wasn't
while the heroes are playing.
There wasn't a fixed foil for Jordan either, though. That's the other thing. Because it was a different team in the finals. Like you had the Barkley Suns that they played. You had the Stockton Malone Jazz that they played in the finals. Like, but they didn't play the same team every year in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's like I actually think that Patrick Mahomes is a very likable dude. I like him.
He's
And,
100% likable, but America wants new. And our attention spans have shortened quite a bit since the 90s. So, like the same thing over and over for 3 or 4 years, people are going to get fatigued on.
Yeah. I mean, even though I had a massive bet on the Eagles, like when they went up, was it 24-0? Was that what after the pick that he threw? Like I was kind of in the back of my head. I know that I'm a sadist, I guess. I don't know. Thought, well, Brady came back from something like this. How incredible would it be if Mahomes got this game within a possession in the fourth quarter? Like I was hoping, like, and I'm sure maybe people were because they just wanted the game to be entertaining. But like, I just been like, we love greatness. Like it would be amazing to see somebody do that. And I saw somebody here in the chat, going back to college football here for a second, saying there's no love for Penn State. Why don't we give them some love? Because Jahan Dotson almost scored on the first touchdown.
What was the prop on Jahan Dotson first touchdown? Because for 2 seconds, it looked like he scored the first touchdown, even though
I'm sure it was like 40-1 and people had it. And That's devastating. My heart goes out to you. But Jahan Dotson and Saquon played at Penn State. Like, the Georgia discussion isn't to erase everybody who played college football because the entire field did. But yeah,
it's
Jahan
just
Dotson
interesting. And look, I mean, the Eagles draft. I just look, Howie Roseman, college roommate of Washington coach Jed Fish, by the way. Their draft last year was just spectacular. If you love college football and really good college football players, like it's kind of like, I don't know, the perfect draft because it's the perfect mix of like guys who played at small schools who were great, like diamond in the rough from a small school, guys who played at big schools who were really good players but maybe weren't like big draft. Listen to this draft here. Quinyon Mitchell was their first round pick. Phenomenal pick. Played at Toledo from Williston, Florida. Nick Saban said they tried to get him they tried to tamper with him. They couldn't. Like Cooper DeJean, folk hero at Iowa. Fantastic. Obviously has a pick six in the Super Bowl. Huge impact. Jalix Hunt from Houston Christian, who we had on the show last year at the Senior Bowl. Incredible story. Like played at Cornell, transferred, changed positions, and he was a player for them this year. Will Shipley was a really good running back at Clemson. Anaya Smith was an incredibly productive guy at Texas A&M. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. from Clemson. Trevor Keegan, the guard from Michigan. Like Johnny Wilson from Florida State. He's on this team too. Like he played a little bit in the playoffs, but they're so deep at receiver. They didn't need as much of him. But what a draft. What a draft.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like everybody in sports wants the big free agent moves and wants the trades and the blockbuster deals and all that stuff. And it's like, I feel like just being great at the draft is the same thing as just being great at recruiting high schoolers in college.
It's exactly what it is. And the more the sports meld, the more the environments change and the college game more resembles at least the roster acquisition part of the pro game, the better you better be at the draft. And we've talked about this. Like,
well, speaking of the two sports mirroring each other, here's another thought I had for you, since it's like a Super Bowl free for all right now. And I wish you would have watched it with me. We could have had these discussions before. But the running back is back in the NFL now, right?
No, Saquon is back. You better be. Are you a specialist, Saquon? And do you have the best offensive line in the game? The offensive line is the most important part. Like without that line, Saquon is good, but not.
But you don't think there's going to be a run on coveted elite transcendent running backs, or trying to find that person?
No, I think there will be people who do that and overdraft a running back, and then that running back is killed because their line sucks. Like,
I need to go back and look this up because I don't know the answer to this. You might know it off the top of your head. I'm going to ask you while I'm looking it up. Okay. So he was taken number 2 overall.
Yeah, Saquon was a huge draft pick. Yeah.
I'm like wondering, like, as we talk about, like, we both picked Texas to win the national title this next year.
Yeah.
And it's like CJ Baxter's coming back. And it's like these 5-star big time running backs who, by the way, it's really hard to be a 5-star running back now because the rankings are mirrored in your draft potential.
Correct.
And I'm starting to wonder, as the two games mirror each other, if offensive line and stud running back, like, is Ashton Genty going to go 10 spots higher now than he would have?
Well, I was about to say, I really hope that the team that takes Ashton Genty, because Ashton Genty is a first-round draft pick for sure. Like, you're crazy.
And would have been either way. Would have been either way.
Right. But I pray that the team that takes Ashton Genty already has a good offensive line, because if you don't already have a good offensive line, it's too late to build one.
Yeah.
So you look at what Saquon did behind this line this year. Look at Zeke's first year in the NFL, first couple years in the NFL when the Cowboys had the monster offensive line led by Zach Martin. Like, that's how it works. That is how you get value out of your first-round running back. Otherwise, you're wasting the pick. The Lions had Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was a first-round running back. Everybody's like, why would you do that? Well, because they already had a good offensive line.
Yeah. There are a lot of players. Like, here's the thing. Like, is Saquon Barkley the best running back of my generation? Like, I don't know how far that goes back.
When does your
And I know that,
generation start?
I need to figure that out. Like does like Priest Holmes count? Because I was a kid when he was playing.
he
I'm trying to
wasn't.
think, like,
He wasn't as good as Saquon.
no, I know, but like I'm just
Marshall
remember
Faulk
didn't-
probably was, but
didn't
Marshall Faulk was a
Marshall
very
Faulk-
different kind of running back. Yeah.
Derrick Henry. I don't know if that's like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick
Oh, here's
Henry's an anomaly though. Like he's a cyborg. Like nobody else is going to be built like him. No running back's going to have the longevity that he has in this kind of game. Like that just doesn't exist. Now,
Here's a list, Andy.
okay.
Notable running backs since 2000. I'd say that's my era. Like when I was like 13 years old. Adrian
Ryan in the
Peterson
chat just put the correct name up there. Adrian Peterson.
LaDainian Tomlinson,
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Faulk, Priest Holmes, Fred Taylor, Sean Alexander, Tiki Barber, Ricky Williams, Amon Green, Corey Dillon, Warwick Dunn, Curtis Martin, Clinton Portis, Edgerrin James, Jamal Lewis, Deuce McAllister, and Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson's better than all of them.
And well, we started with Adrian, but is Adrian Peterson better than Saquon?
Not as a receiver. As a pure running back, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody. If I'm forgetting
AP
anybody,
never
in the chat,
had.
let me know.
Peterson also never had a dominant offensive line. But
Was
Saquon,
AP better in college than he was in the pros, or am I just misremembering it?
no, he was awesome in both.
I know he was great in both, but like Adrian Peterson was so dominant in college. And like I think Saquon Barkley was dominant in a way this year that very few running backs have been dominant in the past.
You're
I don't know. Am I
Adrian Peterson
recency
had
biased?
Didn't Adrian Peterson have a 2,000-yard season?
I don't know.
I believe he did. So let's look up his stats. I mean, he was pretty awesome. So
He had 15,000 carries in the NFL.
he had 3,000 carries in there. He had 15,000 yards.
What did I say? Carries? Yeah, 15,000 yards, 3,200 carries, and 2,500 receiving yards.
Yes,
126
so
total
2012 he went over 2,000 yards.
Yeah,
He had
maybe that's Adrian
1,700.
Peterson erasure.
Yeah. Yeah. He's pretty amazing. So he went 1,485. It's almost 1,500. He went over that 3 times. He went over 1,300 yards 5 times. Like, pretty amazing. Now, Saquon, though, I would argue Saquon is a better weapon than Peterson because of what he can do out of catching the ball out of the backfield. The little bobble catch last night, notwithstanding, he's normally very short-handed. So,
and Saquon's more elusive than Adrian Peterson was, right? Like Adrian Peterson was more of a bruiser. He could make people miss.
Power,
but like he would run through people better too. Yeah,
yeah. Like Adrian Peterson at Oklahoma, they actually moved him back 2 yards because they found that he getting the extra 2 yards head of steam. So he would be 7 yards behind the quarterback was just devastating. Like, because he would hit the line of scrimmage at full speed and nothing could stop him at that point.
Adrian Peterson returned from a torn ACL in the same season. Is that real? I don't remember that.
That is real. He did that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is just greatness and greatness. It is very hard to.
Yeah. It's like very interesting when you compare two people of like saying was better than the other. It's like, yeah, well, they're both amazing. Like it's hard, bad interneting again. But like and
like Peterson,
I think too, it's just like as an adult, I'm able to see clearer. Like when you're a kid, like someone's good, but like as we watch the sport now, like it just more clear in my mind as a result of like my profession and how we watch the games.
This maybe because he was playing when I was a kid, but I don't think so. The best running back in the history of the world is Barry Sanders. Because he couldn't be tackled in college. He couldn't be tackled in the NFL. His offensive lines were terrible in the NFL, and it didn't matter. Like,
yeah, he has the best
if he'd ever gotten to play on a really good team.
He has the best highlights.
Yeah.
You know, there are only a few people that possess a elusiveness and the ability to make people miss the way that he did. And I think that Saquon has some of that. Like Saquon's
I think
ability
you're
to
right.
make people miss with the size of his body is what makes him so good. Like
Yeah.
Barry
I mean,
Sanders
the
is a smaller
move-
dude.
The move earlier in the game, in the season, the spin to the jump to the like. Is there another human being who can do that? I'm not sure. I don't think there's another human being on earth that could do that.
Yeah, like I don't think that Barry Sanders could have done that because he wasn't as big and strong as him. Now, the thing that I wanted to bring this back to college is like which player, because I have one player who kind of possessed this ability that I covered personally. And I'm trying to think of other players who have existed in college football. Like, who do you think is the most elusive, like make people miss when there's no way out type of player based on slight hesitations?
Not a running back,
twitching,
but
body
Percy
movement?
Harvin.
Yeah, Percy Harvin. You know who comes to my mind? Braxton Miller.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you go watch Braxton Miller's college highlight from his time at a quarterback. Like he had a way where he could do this with his body, just something subtle and like make somebody hesitate and run right past him. And like I don't know if there are a lot of people like that. And I feel like Barry Sanders is the greatest individual example of running the ball that way.
Oh, he was incredible. You put him with better teammates, and God only knows what he winds up doing. Like,
yeah,
it's insane. And I'm not talking about Oklahoma State. He was unstoppable at Oklahoma State. I'm talking about it with the Lions. So
yeah, the fact that we were talking about the Ashton Genty Barry Sanders record all year while also ignoring the fact they play like 4 more games is hilarious to me.
Oh, nobody was ignoring that.
No. I'm saying like
lots of per carry division was being done.
No, but what I'm saying is like his record is so insane that Ashton Genty.
But remember, Genty was going to. But Genty was going to do it in fewer carries still, because that's how much running backs had to work back in the day.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so games don't matter. It's all about carries.
I mean, I think both of them matter, but yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing that matters in the stat is how many carries did it take you to get there?
Yeah, what's your
more
per
games gives you more carries.
So Barry, I think, was a 7.5 per carry average on that in that season, which for that number of carries is astounding. Like,
yeah, right.
So,
but hey, here's us talking about greatness, and we'll see more Mahomes in the future. And I'm assuming that the Chiefs will be back. Congratulations to Philadelphia Eagles fans too. I'm assuming that there's a lot of Penn State fans.
Nobody's at work in Philly today.
Oh, 2 tweets that I saw that were hilarious that I wanted to read out, and I can't remember who they were. And I was in Dallas, obviously at home with a bunch of Mavericks fans at my house. So it was hilarious. It's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing really well in the finals. Let's trade him in the middle of the night for nothing and then call him fat on the way out. I thought that was funny.
Oh my God.
Someone else tweeted. I can't remember. I got to be better about like taking notes of who tweets these things. But somebody said, all right, it was like in the 3rd quarter of the game. And somebody tweeted, all right, turning off the broadcast now and turning on the Philly police scanner.
Grease the poles, baby. Grease the poles. All right, we do need to transition to college football, to the upcoming season, because we left a little on the table last week with our breakdown of the FanDuel way too early top 25 win totals. But first, I got to tell you about a great way to start your day or keep your day going. Huel. Got the Huel Black Edition right here. Complete meal in this bottle. 27 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, everything you need, and you know exactly what you're getting when you drink a Huel. This is a meal in a bottle. You'll see some of those that come in a little cardboard box and they say, this is not replace a meal. This is not full nutrition. Well, Huel is, and when you need something, you're in a hurry, you got to bring lunch, but you don't have time to buy lunch or get lunch, Huel can go with you. You need breakfast, Huel can do it for you. The world's #1 complete nutrition. And right now, if you go to Huel.com, that's Huel.com, use the promo code Staples15, you get 15% off and a free gift. So that's Huel.com, Huel.com, promo code Staples15 for 15% off and a free gift. All right, let us look at these win totals. We hit them last week. Both of us our eyes lit up with the Florida one. We're like, yeah, hit that Florida over, because let's put it this way. There's a universe where Billy Napier does exactly what he did last year, gets fired, and you still win with your over. Let's talk about the other one that made our eyes light up, and that is Texas 9.5. Ari, I see what they're doing here because they're looking at Texas having to go to Ohio State at the beginning of the season and saying, okay, we're going to reduce this by 1. We're going to reduce what we normally would have had by 1. Now, they've always got some tough games. They're at Ohio State. They're at Florida. The Oklahoma game, I would imagine, is going to be significantly tougher this year. They're at Georgia. A&M comes to them, but that game is always going to be tough. So I get it. But I feel like if you give me 2 games to play with this Texas team, like, do you think they'll go 1-2 between Ohio State, Florida, and Georgia? Do you think they'll go 1-2?
No.
Okay, then you should feel very comfortable with the over here because they could go 1-2 in that stretch and still hit the over.
I think that what you're looking at here is even if they lose to Ohio State and Georgia, because both of those games are on the road, and that sucks for them.
And the Florida game's on the road too.
That schedule, otherwise, they will be better than those teams. Now, we don't know what OU is going to be. I think that there's a chance that OU is much better than we're giving them credit for next year. Like if they fix their offense,
I think they're definitely going to be better than they were last year. And then the question is,
like
how good?
In the rivalry game. Like when we go to it again next year, like we walk in not knowing what's going to happen. Like last year, we know it's a banana game to begin with, but Ryan Mateer and improved offensive line and Deion Burks and being healthy, like Oklahoma, might be somebody that jumps out at us next year. But like I think Texas is going to win the national title. And I also think that because when I was doing the returning players list, Andy, the top 10 players returning to college next year, Texas had 2 on the list, and I think you can make the case for 4 or 5 players on their roster potentially. And like that doesn't even include CJ Baxter, who got injured last year.
Right. Yeah, they get all their running backs back essentially because that was they had horrific injury luck with the running backs.
Right. So yeah, I really, really like Texas next year. And I think they probably should be, if they didn't have Ohio State in the opener, but I think that they're going to beat Ohio State in the opener. Do you not? Like, I think that they're more with what
I don't even know who Ohio State's defensive coordinator is yet.
Yeah.
So not ready to make a prediction. But no, I would have
think that. That's why I think that though.
No, I think that's a legitimate. I think everybody's thinking that. I think they're favored. I believe there's already a line on that game.
Yeah, Chris Vanini told me yesterday like what their podcast topic is today, and I'm going to steal it for a second.
Okay, go for
it's their whole show, but like, you know what? If they have a problem with it, then they can fight us. But
we started that show.
He and Ralph Russo.
We can extract attacks every once in a while.
Are drafting. We got to come up with draft stuff, Andy, because we don't draft ever. I want to draft against you. And maybe starting with food
let's throw it out to the chat right now.
Yeah,
everybody, give us some ideas. It's the off season. We're gonna have some fun, especially on Fridays. Little grab ass on Fridays. We're gonna draft different topics.
Yeah, and we were gonna draft food, but give us draftable
movies, music,
too.
Food.
But we could have a football show drafting. And they're drafting coaches most likely to win their first national title. Now that Ryan Day has his.
Okay.
And like Steve Sarkisian is unequivocally pick 1-1, right? Like there's no
Dan Lanning.
I still think that Steve Sarkisian's number 1.
I would agree with that. I think there will be people who pick Dan Lanning, and there will be people who pick Marcus Freeman, but I think I would go Sarkisian on that.
With what Texas has on its roster, you would be insane to draft anybody else. That's my personal
by the way, did the line I mentioned, FanDuel also has a line on.
Do you have the line for the Ohio State game?
Yeah.
Can
Ohio
I guess?
State by 3.5.
Oh!
Ohio State by 3.5.
Oh, I was going to guess, and I would have been wrong. So thank you for saving me the embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Texas would be laying like 2.5 right now on the road.
I'm shocked by that. I got to be honest.
That's a line you might take right now.
Yeah. Get
And
in
just
on
lock
that
it in.
now, because
if you want to lock up your money for 9 months, go for it.
But seriously, let's talk about this. That game is going to be Texas by 3.5, 4 when it kicks off, right?
Do you think? I don't know.
I mean, what's going to change at Ohio State that changes your mind and my mind on this?
I don't know.
Unless we get reports that Julian Sayin is like the second coming of Joe Montana.
Well, that's the thing too. Like you are going to be taking a leap of faith going into that game about Ohio State, regardless of who.
Right, because their entire like
on.
Caleb Downs is great, but that whole defense is going to be they have 2 starters coming back. Igbenos is the other starter.
Yeah, you have to take a leap of faith that Ohio State is bad or good either way, no matter what side you're on. And when I say bad meaning like off to a slow start, because I think Ohio State's going to make the playoff and potentially win games in the postseason.
Yeah, now it's a new Texas offense too under a new quarterback, but we did see Arch Manning start games last year.
Ahead. They're ahead. Yeah. They're ahead on defense and offense.
This line perplexes me, Ari. Like,
yeah, I was going to bet that. I was going to say, if I could guess, that Texas was favored. So but also too, like I think maybe, if you're going to do a gimmicky line in February, you also have to heavily weight where the game is located. But I don't want this to go unnoticed about Texas. They played Ohio State really well.
They did
in the playoff this year.
They did. They played that version of Ohio State really like. That's the reason I can't believe this line is what it is and this win total is what it is, because Texas brings back a lot more than Ohio State does, and those teams were not that far off.
Yeah,
like if Texas punches that ball in on the goal line, it's a 21-21 game with 2 minutes to play.
And also, too, we don't know what Ohio State's going to be. They have the two. We know they have the 2 best players in college football.
Right. We know Jeremiah Smith is going to make their offense very good.
and I think that is a bailout for whoever plays quarterback next year. And like I think that the assumption is Julian Sayin, but they also have a 5-star freshman on their roster in Tavian St. Clair. And if you want to play the Alabama Keelan Russell game, like Ohio State has a very talented big kid from Ohio coming in and is on the team and was at the national title game.
And we shouldn't assume that the true freshmen won't be able to play, because true freshmen do come in and play now.
And now with Ryan Day's equity too, like if he thinks that his ceiling is higher, like you can come into that game with a true freshman quarterback, lose, and no one's going to want you to get out of town. So I don't know. I don't know how much you buy into that, like coaches' decisions on personnel being impacted by where they are in the sphere.
I think if you're Ryan Day, you can experiment some.
Right. Like if they lose that game, it's going to be a big game, and I'm assuming that we're probably going to go to it. But if Ohio State loses the game 28-20 or whatever, like it's just a game that happened in the 12-team era, and like nothing changes, and it gives your young quarterback who hasn't started yet a taste of a team that's probably going to go on deep into the playoff, and then you get to go traverse your schedule with that experience. Like I think that you could make the case that no matter who their quarterback is, that Texas has the quarterback advantage going into the game. And I actually like really resent anybody who just thinks that like, oh, Arch, the only thing that we know about Arch is his last name. It's like, I think we know more than that. Like, is that like, I feel like if Arch Manning didn't have his name, he would have been impressive enough in his time already playing to people to get some respect of like, yeah, he's going to be good. I almost think that his name is working against him now.
Probably, because people look at the name and not the skill set. I think the skill set's pretty impressive.
Remove his name.
You were the one saying he should have been starting all along. We'll see if that's true or not.
Remove his name from the equation. You can still assign him his 5-star status, but given his ranking and given his performance in the limited action that he's had, have we not seen enough to know that he's going to operate this offense quite well? Like the Arch Manning doubt, I think, is bizarre, and maybe that's just doubt because of his name. But like he's going to be good. Like it's not like he's not going to be good. And here's the other thing: you don't have to be Peyton or Eli Manning to look good with the players around you. Like even if he's a 7 out of 10 quarterback,
let me put it this way:
he's still
if he's Quinn Ewers,
yeah,
they're going to win this game.
Even if he's not the most generational player that we've ever seen, they're going to win a lot, and he's going to do really well.
Yeah.
Like, no, I just like this thought process of like him being a liability is like so stupid to me. It bothers me. It's wrong.
Well, if it bothers you though, throw some shekels on over and may as well get those plus 3.5 while you can.
Shekels on them to win the title.
Oh yeah. Actually, let's look at national championship odds. Now Texas is
6 or 7 to 1, right?
They're plus 650. Ohio State's plus 600. Plus 600 is the lowest odds. So it is.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of clustered in there. Like Oregon's plus 650, Georgia's plus 700, Penn State's plus 800. So,
look at your bracket, Andy. River, throw up mine if you have it. I don't know if he has it. If he doesn't, it's okay.
I have Texas winning the national title, beating Notre Dame for the national title.
I have Texas winning the national title, and in mine, Ohio State's on the other side of the bracket and is playing Texas in the national title game.
There you go.
So, yeah, it's okay if he doesn't have it. Go ahead.
Dave's here. You wouldn't know who Arch was without his name. Yes, we would.
Yes, we would. What are you talking about?
Because he started 2 games for Texas last year.
And he was a 5-star player. Like, what are you talking about? We know who the 5-stars who haven't played are yet.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I'm saying. Like when people say that, they're like upset that he's a Manning.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I don't know.
We're talking about Julian Sayin right now. We know who he is. He hasn't played.
We do. Steve in San Antonio asked to explain the 5-star situation QB that Ohio State has. Why would St. Clair go there with Sayin already on the roster? Because, Steve, there's no established starter. The job's open. Like, the 5-star who is not afraid of the other 5-star, that's usually the one I'm placing the bet on.
And the 5-star player from Ohio is just going to go to Ohio State. Like, it's not that complex. Like, that's just usually what happens. And he has been committed to Ohio State for a really long time. Like, I think he committed as an underclassman. So,
yep.
And like, also too, there's no downside. Like that notion that you said is true. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, so you're a big Ryan Puglisi guy, probably, right? Like, yeah, he's not afraid of Dylan Raiola. 100%. He's going to Georgia. He's going to make. It's just like.
Because he was committed when Dylan Raiola was committed, did not care.
Didn't care, right. But like the odds or the stakes of that not caring in the past were so much higher because if you still went and didn't care, leaving early was a much tougher proposition. So if Tavian St. Clair gets there and Julian Sayin's a Heisman finalist next year and doesn't want to wait anymore, he can go start somewhere else next year. So, like, I feel like that, to me, is like, you know, Texas and what Texas did as a with 2 5-star players on their team for how many years were Arch? They were together for 2 years, right? So
Arch and Quinn, yes.
For Arch to wait for, and I saw that Cooper Manning got interviewed about this. Did you see the spot that he had in the Super Bowl
on Dan Patrick? Yeah.
I don't think that there are going to be a lot of parents with that temperament, but frankly speaking too, like it's easier to have that temperament when you're rich. So like that,
it's true.
Like it's easier to be like, yeah, don't take the money, you know, go to your, like, it all sounds great, but it's so much easier to say when you're not coming from poverty. and some people are and need the money. So like, I just like,
Although
but
I
you're
will
not
say,
gonna
I will
see
argue that most quarterback parents are not.
That's right.
That's
yeah,
it.
I know. I read that.
That's a much
Morales
longer
story.
discussion to be had about how the quarterback position is financially prohibitive, and it's very hard if you come from a lower income background to even play quarterback at a high level in high school. But
Which is why
that
CJ
is-
Stroud's rise to prominence was so impressive, because CJ Stroud didn't come from wealth.
Right. Lamar
And like
Jackson, same thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
but this was like, but Lamar Jackson, I think, was even before this. Like, there's a certain, like, I don't know, when do you think that the financial aspect of quarterback, coach, trainer, all that stuff that they have to spend?
Right about the time Lamar was coming out of high school, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Because like CJ Stroud went from like nothing to the 40th overall player in his class because he tore up Elite 11 and it was a late bloomer. But like CJ Stroud didn't come up out of high school like spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal quarterback coaches and working on his development. And like, I don't know that Lamar Jackson did either, did he?
He didn't.
He didn't,
No,
right?
there were people who worked with him. He had people who
Yeah.
worked with him, but it was not a case of his mom was spending the kind of dollars that most of these quarterback parents are spending.
Yeah,
to
and
get
there's a
their
quarterback
guys.
that is playing in college football right now, whose dad like made an indoor facility on their house property. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, great kid, great family. Not saying it's a bad thing, but like also too, if you have personal trainers coming in and working with you every day and analyzing it's like having golf tech in your house. Like,
yeah, it's a
like,
lot more expensive to raise a quarterback than it is a corner or an offensive tackle.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you in terms of like Lamar Jackson's like just natural physical ability, like how insane that is.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. Now, these win totals, we're gonna stretch these out. We're gonna hit a couple more today, and you know what? I like the idea of focusing in on one team because So let's save some of these for later in the week as well, because I want to go over Tennessee's, I want to go over LSU's, I really want to go over Indiana's. I think Indiana's is very interesting.
Colorado's.
Miami's is very interesting. Notre Dame. So we're gonna save these, and
you have to just train yourself, Andy, that when I'm your co-host, pal, we're not going to be running short on time. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
don't overplan.
Yeah.
Don't
overplan. I'll get you there. I'll get you there.
Well, before we get to our final thing, which, oh my God, we were in New Orleans when this press conference happened, so we didn't get a chance to fully digest it. I watched it over the weekend, probably 6 times, and so we're gonna break down the Rob Ryan press conference at USC. But before that, I want to tell you about State and Liberty, modern athletic fit clothing for men who want to look great and be comfortable at the same time. This is the navy tipped polo. I got the black one and the navy one. They are spectacular. They go with everything. Dress it up, dress it down, does not matter. Wear it to work, wear it to the bar. You can do it all. Also, you can fire your dry cleaner because these things handle the washing machine great. Come out looking awesome every time. And right now, new customers can get 10% off when they use the code STAPLES. So you go to stateandliberty.com. They just made jeans. So they go from jeans casual all the way up through tuxedos. You name it. They got it. Stateandliberty.com. Use the code STAPLES. Get 10% off. Or there is a link in the show notes. You can click on it. That'll take you right there. All right. Rob Ryan press conference, Ari, because I've always enjoyed Rob Ryan. I enjoy Rex Ryan as well. Rob Ryan, Rex's younger brother, sons of Buddy Ryan, obviously. These guys are spectacular. So Rob is the one with the amazing hair. Like, if you don't know Rob, but you remember Rex as the head coach of the Jets and the Bills, Rob is Rex with better hair. That's probably the best way to describe him. Their storytelling styles, their speech styles, very similar. Rob is now the linebackers coach at USC. And my God, college football is lucky to have him. He had a press conference late last week it was a tour de force. So let's start with him getting asked about his hair.
Have you seen the culture change a lot in between, when you were coaching in college 25 years ago to the NFL and then coming back to college now? Have you seen a personality trait difference? And then second part of the question, better hair, you or Coach or Troy Polamalu?
I'd have to say Troy there. That's a close one. Mine's a little grayer, but he's getting a little tinted gray now. Both of us, ironically, married Greek women. Whew. Oh, it's tough. That's tough. So I'm sure she's in charge of his house like mine's in charge of me. But what was the other question? Oh, coaching? You know what? That's the biggest overrated thing there is. People are people. The only people who are going to survive in football are guys that are the alphas, that are tough, that love contact, that enjoy running to the ball, competing at the highest level. And that's what you still see. Like, oh, this guy, well, he's on social media. He's on it. I get it. But at the end of the day, when they're looking back at you, they're the same guys. They're the same guys. Like, that's who's successful. Smart, tough, competitive, hardworking, selfless, and football's important. That's the only people that make it.
The Greek women thing?
Yeah.
Jewish household, same thing. Women in charge.
Listen, I think any household where the lady is better looking than the man.
Is that the power dynamic?
I think so. At least personal experience. Because my wife's not Greek and we're not Jewish. But she's definitely in charge.
Did you trace her lineage back to the old country or not? Like, I don't know. You never know.
Her maiden name was Wintermark, and apparently it was von Wintermark before that. So definitely not Greek.
We're probably in the safe haven there. Yeah. So yeah, my wife she's been a very constant support during my weight loss journey, and then like now that I'm down into like the 230s. When she eats something that's like, we were at the Super Bowl party and I saw her eat like some chips yesterday and I was like, hey, don't get fat.
See, I would get punched in the face for saying that.
Yeah, no, I was saying like, I cannot be with a woman who's not better looking than me. Yeah, but the wife running shit is universal, I guess. And you know what? There are always going to be men in the chat here, Andy, that get mad at us for not being manly enough as a result of respect for our wives and not running our own households.
Yeah,
but I think
their wives don't look like our wives, though.
Yeah, I mean, my wife
for that.
is a looker, and I would say that about yours, but I don't want to be inappropriate on
you can say that.
Live air. Your wife's an
Ari sends me screen grabs of some Instagram model who happens to look exactly like my wife.
She's a Instagram fashion model, and every time she comes up on my screen, I think it's like your wife getting social media. She looks just like her.
Yeah, my wife is not on social media.
And I said, but she does look like her, right? Because there's nothing more vulnerable a human being can do than be like, hey, this person looks like this person, and like if you're wrong or whatever, like it's an insult. Not in this case, but like you put yourself out there when you say, hey, your wife looks like somebody, and it's just like I was vulnerable in that moment.
Oh yeah, no, it's uncanny, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So Rob Ryan, his wife shows up in another story here. That's great, but we got to talk about Rob Ryan and recruiting. So Rob Ryan hasn't coached in college football in 25 years. He was at Oklahoma State, he was at Tennessee State, but then he's been in the NFL for a long time. So he's got to recruit, and they sent him out with Eric Henderson on the road for his first taste of recruiting. Here's how that went.
Ryan Abraham, USCFootball.com. You said you haven't coached in college for quite a while. To get indoctrinated by going out on the road and talking to 17-year-old high school kids, like how was that first experience? Like you haven't done something like that in quite a while.
Well, I was with Henny, who's like, I mean, that's Pete Carroll. Like that guy's he's got energy. He's unbelievable. Everybody loves him. He walks in the building. He's like, oh, Henny. Like he's the man, so it was pretty easy. No, they did not trust me. I'm going out by myself. I would have probably broke every rule. No, I wouldn't have. Maybe a few of them. But it was awesome to be around him. And then, I think I'm kind of used to like seeing a player, know what he looks like. And when you see a face that you're used to looking at, it's like, oh, I want that kid, So I saw a couple of those on the road. And I'm like, all right, this will be pretty cool. And then I got back here and I got you looking at these young kids, well, he's 170 pounds. Can you project? Like, oh, this is where it's going to be a little different. So, I'm still kind of getting used to that, but, it's a people business. So back when I was coaching at Tennessee State 110 years ago, I used to sign a lot of kids. So I'll be okay. I'll be good at it for sure.
I would have broken every rule. No, I wouldn't have. Yes, I would have.
Yeah. I don't think he was saying it as a malicious way. He was saying he doesn't know the rules yet. But yeah, I do think that like we should do like a ranking of coaches that you wish you could be a fly on the wall during an in-home visit. There's number one. The number one overall pick is Jim Harbaugh.
Yes.
I would have paid money out of my checking account to sit like in the corner and just watch him cook in an in-home visit. Like when there's no cameras, no one's recording him just being himself.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What do you think that looked like?
I just think of his like guys who like football speech where he talks about I like guys who like football and guys who like football like me and guys who don't like football don't like me. Like he's just trying to figure out who in the house likes football and then that's who he's going to gravitate toward. And he's only talking to them.
I've had my interactions with him over the years. And I think that like I generally like had a sense of his aura and how he is. But then I don't know if that's actually how he actually is.
I feel like you need to be like just a real football dude to connect, like Jake Butt. Like, Jake, he works for the Big Ten Network. He played tight end at Michigan for Harbaugh. Like guys like that probably just instantly connect.
Yeah. Yeah. So talking ball.
Rob Ryan, though, I think Rob Ryan probably connects with everybody. Like Rob Ryan has got to be. It's probably a shame that he spent 25 years in the NFL and was not recruiting when he could have been recruiting, because I think Rex would have been really good at recruiting too. Like both these guys have this sort of joie de vivre and they're incredible storytellers and they're funny as hell. And they're just like, they feel like they're always out to have a good time. Like I have a feeling they would be great recruiters.
Yeah, this made me laugh because it's exactly how I feel. Jim will wash your car in the driveway just because it's dirty to him.
Yes,
exactly. The guy and would do it like thoroughly and really want to help you out.
Yeah, he would see a dust spot and be like, "Got to get that."
Yeah. I don't know. I always just laugh, thinking like, what is it like?
Oh yeah. Well, the maybe who knows? I mean, at this point, the rules are changing. Maybe we will get a Rob Ryan in-home visit video at some point down the road.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I remember I tried as a reporter multiple times with multiple teams to do behind-the-scenes recruiting stuff, and the response was sometimes, yeah, we can make it work, and then there were too many limitations of like, yeah, you're actually not allowed to be in the room during these things, and it's like that's the whole point.
Yeah, the best of that, and guys, if you haven't read this book, get it. It's our friend Bruce Feldman's book, Meat Market. I think it's actually one of the top 5 sports books written in the past 20 years. Like it is legit amazing. Bruce actually had that access where he was going with coaches on recruiting visits. He spent basically an entire recruiting cycle with the Ed Orgeron Ole Miss staff, and that book is incredible. So if you haven't read that, that's your book club tip of the week from
I
Uncle
have
Andy.
that book on my mantle over there, and I have not read it yet. It's been on my list.
What you were looking at. Yes, it is.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah, I was like looking to see.
I'll see if Bruce can send you the book on tape.
Can you buy the book on tape?
I don't know.
And
we'll find out.
Because the reason why I haven't read
we'll see
it
if Bruce will just open his copy of the book and read it to you.
If I got Bruce reading the book to me while driving, that would be really, really comforting. Just to feel him next.
I don't think you can afford that. I think if I were Bruce, I would charge you extra for that.
I'm trying to find my app that does it. Okay. Yeah, I want to see if I can, because I've been wanting to. The reason why I haven't is does it hold up? But does it matter if it does?
Oh, it holds up. Oh, I guarantee you it holds up. So, and you as someone who appreciated that era of recruiting in college football will especially love it.
It's not on here. It's not on here. We got to get him.
Oh, you're going to actually have to read it like a normal human being. I'm sorry.
Well, I had this debate with people. Like, if you listen to audio books, do you get to say you read the book?
Yes.
Okay, then don't be condescending and say, well, you actually have to read it like an adult. Like,
I know. I just like messing with you because it clearly bothers you.
Yeah, like I listen to a lot of books on tape. And then I always feel kind of weird being like, yeah, I read that. Because I'm like, no, I didn't read it. I listened to it while driving.
Yeah.
I'm listening to one right now called The I-5 Corridor Killer. Go check it out. It's pretty interesting.
You and your true crime. All right. A little more Rob Ryan, because we got one incredible story to get to. But first, okay, so the Rob Ryan Danton Lynn connection. So Danton Lynn's the defensive coordinator at USC. They've worked together before. Rex Ryan and Anthony Lynn, who's Danton's father, very good friends for a long time. Anthony Lynn, former Chargers head coach, longtime NFL assistant. So they're working together on the Bills staff, on Rex's Bills staff. And this is where Rob and Danton realize that they're two peas in a pod.
Okay, well, first one, all right, this is no lie. All right, so, me and Rex were Cub fans, so the Cubs make it to the World Series. They're playing Cleveland for the World Series, Game 7. So Rex, being the head coach, he's like, well, let's go get a van and load it up, a bus, and take it over there to go watch Game 7. This is no lie. This is Tuesday during the season. I'm like, we can't do that. Well, he did. He took everybody but 2 coaches. Me and Danton. I was like, well, we can't leave. We got work to do. We got to coach this team up. We got to get all these cards, and we did all that. But that's the work ethic we had. Like, sometimes, the good don't go with the bad. We had to stay and work, but that's what I admired about him. We were always going to work. I think it might have been my training from Belichick or whatever. I'm not leaving. Hell.
So I actually looked that game up. So that Game 7 was November 3rd, 2016. The Bills' next game was Monday Night Football at Seattle the following Monday. They did lose, so maybe should have stayed back in Buffalo.
That's funny.
But Rob did.
I am very interested to see how that goes for them. I wish he was a coordinator, so he was more in the spotlight, because the linebacker coach isn't necessarily somebody who has got a microphone in their face a lot. But
I think he should just replace Lincoln Riley at every press conference. Like, Lincoln's tired of answering the same questions anyways. He'd rather be dealing with anything but our questions. So just let Rob do that.
Because we do have to talk probably tomorrow at some point about like Marshall Faulk being the running back coach of Colorado, right? Like this, like the like, is that a big deal? Like, I don't, we don't have enough time to, but like, pocket that.
Well, no, I think that's a great thing to talk about tomorrow. We can already just tell everybody. So I'm working on a column for On3 that will run on Tuesday about the most important off-season assistant coaching moves to this point. Now, we still don't have an answer on Ohio State defensive coordinator yet, but most of the spots are filled now. And I think that's a very interesting move. Marshall Faulk going to Colorado, but Rob Ryan going to USC, same thing. Like, Rob Ryan is an accomplished NFL defensive coach. He's been an accomplished coordinator at the NFL level. Like, we saw Wink Martindale come at Michigan and be great as the defensive coordinator. Rob Ryan's not the coordinator, but he's working with a guy in Danton Lynn that he's worked with before, whose philosophies he understands, because he and Rob and Anthony go way back too. Like, this could be very helpful for USC. So
yeah,
one more before we go. We do have to go because Ari and I have a meeting, unfortunately. But this is Rob Ryan talking about seeing Jaden Mayava, the USC quarterback. So Jaden Mayava has an uncle named Kaluka Mayava, who played linebacker at USC in the early 2000s. And Kaluka Mayava went on to have a decent NFL career, and he crossed paths with Rob Ryan. And here's what happened.
When I saw the Mayava guy, I coached his uncle. I hated that kid when I first saw him. A USC kid, a little captain. Remember, he could walk under this table right here. Little guy. And we draft this little runt. I'm like, oh, man. This guy, I was all over this kid during the OTAs. Like, man, this guy, man, you got to run to cover guy. Anyway, so then I'm like, hey, guys, Sweet Live is going on vacation with the family, going out to Hawaii, going to Maui. I've never been to Maui. I run things in Oahu, but I'm like, I'm going to go to Maui. He's like, hey, Rob, you get in any kind of trouble now, you just tell him you know Kalooks. I'm like, man, yeah, I'm going to tell him I know Kalooks. You know, get the hell out of here. Walk out there, do the usual. Got me and the wife there. Oh, we're going to have a romantic evening. Go out there. No rent-a-car. What do you mean? You never called for the rent-a-car? I told you she's Greek. I'm like, yeah, they must have lost it. So, of course, I forgot to call. Now they're out of cars. I'm in Maui. I got no car. So what do? I know Kalooks. I got a car. Oh, you know Kalooks? Swear to God, hand to God, true story. I got a van. I'm like, yeah, Kalooks, my man. Anyway, I ended up loving the kid. He was, oh man, is he mean as a rattlesnake. And there was a reason why that kid was captain with all those first round draft choices. I love that guy. Ended up, looks can be deceiving.
Kalooks! I know Kalooks!
Yeah, I love
if I have anybody in my life like that. I think we have one friend at least like that.
Who?
Our friend Billy Lucci, who runs Texags.com.
Oh, you'd have to be in College Station when you forgot your rental, though.
Well, I feel like most of Texas, I think Lucci covers most of Texas. Like, I know Lucci, and then all of a sudden doors begin to open.
Yeah. I'll think about that next time I'm at the rental place.
I know Kalooks.
I do like a man too that's so into the news conference as he's performing when he like leaves the podium to like
doing
do
some
the walk.
stage work, like he's walking back and forth.
Like a one-man show up there.
If you're listening in podcast form and don't know why Rob Ryan's audio was going out, it's because he was walking away from the microphone like a stand. Like he was thinking he was a stand-up, but he didn't have the microphone in his hand.
Yeah,
it was sitting on the lectern. So
yeah, no, I can't wait to see that develop, and hopefully it turns into some more improvement on the defensive side of the ball for USC, while also giving us a show along the way.
Yeah, I am very excited about the prospect of Rob Ryan in college. But yeah, we'll talk about Marshall Faulk coming to college, and Warren Sapp worked with them last year. So like I am very interested to see, because we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but I've always thought the idea that someone who was an all-time great player and getting mad at them for not being a GA and not grinding it out for 19 hours a day as a GA, like, no, they can skip the line. They have something to offer that guy grinding it out as a GA maybe doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And that happens in just about every business.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of the way of the world. So
yeah. So we got all kinds of moves. We'll talk about them tomorrow. We'll hit which win total do we want to dig into tomorrow? Do we want to do LSU? Do we want to do Tennessee, Indiana?
We could do LSU because there's a philosophical discussion about the future of the program that goes along with it.
Let's do it. LSU win total tomorrow. Biggest offseason coaching moves, and then who knows whatever else happens. We got basketball stuff happening. We got a new AP poll. The number one team in America lost at home this weekend. Does that mean they drop or not?
Who was it?
We'll find out. It was the Auburn Tigers losing to the Florida Gators. But the crazy part of this is Duke, which was number 2, also lost to Clemson. So you could actually have Alabama overtaking Auburn in the basketball rankings. Not that means anything. They do play a tournament. So we'll find out more about that as the week goes on. But the new rankings do come out later today. And then Alabama beat coach Cal in Arkansas, which was in the midst of a winning streak on the road. So we'll find out tomorrow. Assistant coaching moves. LSU win total. We'll talk to you later.